¿Qué onda amigos? ¿Cómo están? Pues estamos aquí con la gente de Roswell Audio. We're here with the people of Roswell Audio. They're going to do a demonstration. Es una demostración de los 3 modelos de micrófonos que ellos creen son los mejores ahorita. Entonces, you can go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Matt McLean. I'm the founder of Roswell ProAudio, and we're based in California, and we make studio recording microphones. And we have 3 different models at 3 very different price points. So I can go through them real quick.
Yeah.
The one that I'll start with is the one that we're probably best known for. This is called the Mini K47, and this has a street price of $299 US.
Great.
So it's very, very affordable. And what's unique about it is it has a K47 style capsule. So if you go back to Europe in the 50s, AKG and Neumann, they invented a lot of the technologies that we use today in terms of microphones. And one of their best inventions was the K47 capsule. And so it's a certain size, and the metal backplate is drilled in a certain way, and it's made with certain materials. But the point of it that we care about is that it has a sound to it that you can't get any other way. So the sound of this capsule really cannot be recreated with anything else. And it's a fairly uncommon kind of capsule to find. It was used in the U-47, of course, the most famous vocal mic ever made. And we use it in this microphone as well. And where it really shines is on sources like piano, drum overheads, acoustic guitar, sometimes vocals too. Of course, vocals are very particular. You never know what voice will work with what microphone, but when this microphone works on vocals, it's amazing. So that's the Mini K47. It comes with this nice shock mount. There's no elastic cords in the shock mount. It's also, the microphone screws into the shock mount, so you don't have to worry about when it's inverted, it's not going to fall out. There's no friction or anything like that.
That's great.
So it screws in. The elastic, there's no elastic. Elastic cords in a cheap shock mount, they're like guitar strings. If you pluck them, you'll hear them twang. But this is silicone. There's no resonance there. So the problem with a cheaper shock mount is that the capsule will hear it. So when you're playing guitar or singing, the microphone's hearing the artist, it's also hearing the shock mount. And that's not a sound you can EQ out later. So we have this non-resonant silicone band, so that's pretty cool.
That's great.
The next microphone we introduced last summer at Summer NAMM. This is called the Caloris. This is our big vocal microphone. This one actually comes with a right coat shock mount. But this gives you the sound of a vintage tube microphone without the cost and the tube. Tubes are great, but they're expensive, they're hard to find, and they get old and noisy, then you have to replace it. So it's a lot of cost and a lot of hassle. Plus, I've seen a lot of studios that they don't bring out their nice vintage tube mics for some clients because they don't want to damage them. They don't want to risk that someone drops it. So we found a way to capture the sound of a tube mic in a solid state design. What that means specifically is this circuit manufactures even order harmonics. So harmonic coloration is one of the things that gives tube mics that tube mic sound. You know, that quote unquote tube sound, a lot of that comes from even order harmonics. So we're doing that in a solid state JFET circuit. And what's nice about it is, so when you sing into this, and what we hear from engineers is that, especially for modern singers, younger singers with a modern voice, they have a very clean delivery. It's a certain sound. And you know, when I was growing up, everybody sounded like they smoked 4 packs of cigarettes every day, if not during the session, like, you know, while they're singing. And there's that kind of gritty, grainy sound that's associated with a lot of those older records. Well, this gives you some of that sound in the microphone. So it's a nice texture, especially for a guy or a woman with a cleaner voice. It gives them a little bit of grit, a little bit of that kind of gritty sound to their voice. But it also has a switch where you can turn that off. So if you put this mic up on a singer and it's too much of that gritty sound, you throw the pad on. Now the pad, of course, it drops your level by 10 decibels, but it also turns those second harmonics down by more than 10 dB. So you put the pad on the mic, you go to your preamp and you dial up 10 dB of makeup gain and it sounds like a different microphone. Wow. It's a cleaner, more modern sounding microphone, so it's 2 mics in one.
It's really weird.
And then the last one we're introducing new at this show today, this is the Delphos 2. So We've had a mic called the Delphos in the product line for a long time, and this is the second version. We added a figure-8 polar pattern and made some other upgrades internally, and kept the price the same. So this streets for $8.99, and it's called the Delphos 2. This is a very flat response kind of microphone. Vocal producers love this because, like modern pop vocals, you're going to have a million plugins or outboard gear, right? You always have compression and expanders and limiters and EQ. And if you're doing all, and I mean, that's what pop vocal production does. That's what, I mean, your audience probably, you guys probably talk about this. What's great about this mic is that it stands up to all of that processing without coming apart. A lot of microphones that are brighter and their voice to cut through, if you put them through all those effects, they just start to sound harsh and distorted, and this doesn't. This retains its smoothness through all of that processing. That's not something that I've experienced because I'm not a pop vocal producer, but a friend of mine, Drew Saavedra, multi-Grammy winning vocal producer based in Miami, he has the Delphos, the original Delphos, and he travels with it, and he uses it all the time because it stands up, you know, as he says, to processing. So this is the new Delphos 2. And that's the product line.
And would you say, like, for example, for someone that is just starting, that the Mini K47 would be a good mic for an entry point?
It is. It's a great mic, and the reason why is that it works well on a lot of different sources. Okay. So I designed it as a singer-songwriter mic because it doesn't have that harsh 10K brightness or sibilance that so many $300 mics have. I thought that's a mic you can put up on your vocals and sing, you put it up on your guitar, it's gonna sound great on both, and it does. But we also hear from people that it's amazing on piano and on drum overheads. And I think we sell more of them to pianists and drummers. We have guys using them at Sunset Studios. Ross Hogarth, he's worked with all kinds of artists. That's his go-to mic for drum room.
Wow.
And he's got every mic you can name, but he puts these up on drum room for every session, so much so that Jeff Neal, who's the house engineer at Sunset Sound, Ross convinced him to buy a pair too. So now there's a pair in the locker at Sunset Sound specifically for drum room.
Wow.
So and I get emails every day from people, it's my secret weapon on something. And it could be different. You know, today the email says it's lap steel, tomorrow it's piano, the next day it's dulcimer, the next day it's mandolin. So everyone loves it on something different. It's a really great all-purpose mic, which is why it's great for people who don't own 10 microphones. That's one that you can use on a lot of sources.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would matter because sometimes, like, if you don't have, like, or some companies have like these mics at entry points that maybe don't sound as good, but I think with what you're explaining, this mic can actually stand.
That's what we're hoping.
Yeah. So Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You guys should check that out. Caloris, Delphos 2, and Mini K47, Roswell ProAudio. Revisen esos micrófonos. Thank you a lot for your time, man. Okay.